Call to order our first public hearing in regards to the changes, updates to our conveyance standards at 1:03 p.m. on Wednesday, February 8th. My name is Lisa Rocco, and I'm the Director of Operations for the Cuyahoga County Fiscal Office. And before I turn the meeting over to Mike Chambers, the Fiscal Officer, I just want to let you know that there will be a 3-minute period to have public comment for each of you who would like to come up to the podium and give public comment. And without further ado, Mike Chambers.
Okay, thank you again. Mike Chambers. I'm the Fiscal Officer for Cuyahoga County. As Lisa indicated, we are going to give 3 minutes. So what we'll do is we can orderly figure out who's going to go first, second, and third. When you do come up, just state your name, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. So this is an update to our conveyance standards. This is what I would like to call the first one of maybe a second one to follow in the rest of this year. We felt it was important to move forward with some changes that we've all kind of agreed upon for quite some time. But we'll be coming back and updating some more of the engineer standards on that side of it a little bit later in the year. I'm going to introduce Brian O'Malley. He's going to talk briefly about some of the current changes we've made. And then after that, we'll have a little bit of public comment. And like I said, you can come up one at a time, state your name, and then we'll go from there. All right, so Brian.
Good afternoon. Thanks for coming. I'm Director of Transfer and Recording for Cuyahoga County. I think most of the people in the title company have known me for years. I don't know if you can hear me. This is, most of these are pretty technical and standard as far as on the surveying end of things, and any questions that come up with that, Neil Yunke, I'm sure some of you know, can answer those. Some of the ones we've been looking into is one of the issues we've been dealing with is a lot of fraud. And so we were trying to adopt some things that might kind of stem that. So one of the things we're doing is we're requiring if properties have delinquent taxes, we're going to require that you submit your settlement statement to show that the money's been withheld. And for those who do not, they'll have to go down to the treasurer's office, and the treasurers will approve the transfer. Because I think there's been a lot of people who have sort of being duped. It's like a game of hot potato. They just keep quit claiming it to the next party, and these taxes never get paid. Some of the other ones we were doing is we're going to require for foreign entities that they file as prescribed by law with the Ohio Secretary of State to do business in Ohio. Some of the other ones is obviously one of the big things we have coming up is our new e-recording platform that will be launched next month. We're going to be doing the beta testing. So that's obviously going to change how we all do business. You will be able, we'll actually be the first in the state of Ohio to have like a real-time direct with the county. You won't have to, you're welcome to use one of the vendors, but you will not have to. You go register with us. You'll be able to go directly to our site and upload your documents, and they'll be recorded and transferred in real time, and we will ACH the appropriate funds. This is a really exciting thing we're looking forward to. One of the other things we're also going to be kind of letting everyone know is going to be available to all taxpayers is you can go on our site currently and put in an email address, and if anything's filed against your property, you will be notified. So I know there's a lot of companies out there offering services like that for a fee. This is a free service that the county is offering to any taxpayer. And with that being said, I think we should just open this up to questions and answers.
Okay, so this is the public comment section of the meeting. So if anyone wishes to start, please step right on up and hit the on button there for the microphone.
Great, thank you. My name is Monica Russell. I'm General Counsel of Erie Title. And I had my main comment, I'm going to probably just limit it to what my main concern was with the standards, which would be that requirement for foreign companies to file registration with the Secretary of State. So we have Erie Title. We also have Erie Commercial Title Services, which is a company that just does commercial transactions. And many, many, many of our buyers are out-of-state companies. They're properly registered and in good standing in their home states. but they don't register here and they're not required to. So revised code 1706-511 states that a foreign limited liability company has to register with the Secretary of State in order to transact business. But then there's a specific statute, 1706-512A9, that says that transacting business doesn't include simply holding title to real estate. So Ohio law specifically provides that you can hold title to real estate in Ohio without being registered here if you're an entity. So the state of Ohio doesn't require this. I would ask Cuyahoga County not require that because it will create a big problem for us with our customers. You know, we already get their operating agreements and resolutions, make sure everybody has authority for this sale. To make them register here too, it's going to create a big problem. And frankly, I think it's going to get the impression that Cuyahoga County is not necessarily friendly to transacting business because you would be imposing requirements that the state of Ohio does not require. So I would certainly ask that you remove that requirement because it's not going to do what people think it will do, right? You still have to be a registered company in a state. Making them registered here, it's not going to somehow prevent fraud or anything like that. Because if they register here, it just means another $100 is going to go to the Ohio Secretary of State, and that's it. Like I don't see the correlation between, you know, property fraud and making a foreign entity register here. Okay. Do you have any questions? I mean.
No, this is your opportunity for
Yeah.
public comment. So no, everything you say, we're going to take back under advisement. So,
Okay.
The only counter I might say is I think they're not just owning real estate. I think they'd be collecting rents, which would fall under the category of doing business.
Not necessarily. So, I mean, it's often the case in a commercial transaction where you have a title holding entity and then you have an operating entity. So, I mean, they do. And if that were the case, then this exception wouldn't be in the statute. It would render that exception meaningless. But the statute specifically states transacting business doesn't include just holding title to real property or personal property. So to interpret that as meaning, well, you'd still need to register for some other reason, it would render that statute meaningless.
Some of the building and housing departments want to pull people into the sunlight, you know, because they think they're hiding behind corporate structures and
They'll
letting the
still do
houses
that.
fall into disrepair, and there's no one that they can subpoena to appear to answer for it. And I think
But they can. They absolutely can. So you still need to be an entity that's registered somewhere. So you would simply look where they're registered, and you would serve the summons on whoever their statutory agent is. They still exist. I mean, they're still there. Making them register here and have a company like CSC, which is like they're just a statutory agent company, making them be the statutory agent's not going to solve any problems. It's not going to. It just won't. It's not going to fix what needs to be fixed. It just imposes an additional burden on the many, many, many companies that buy property here that are doing legitimate business transactions.
Well, thank you. We will take it under advisement.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate that. Mhm. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Please step forward. State your name again, please.
Thanks. My name is Chris Harsh. I'm the Cleveland City Councilman for Ward 13, the Old Brooklyn neighborhood. And I'll provide the counterpoint. I would absolutely applaud this body for enacting these restrictions. I think more restrictive measures are needed. But I'll give you a really good example of how this could actually help the city of Cleveland. We have an out-of-state investor called Hammock Investments. They're from Montana or California. They're kind of split between a few different states. They bought a whole bunch of properties in Cleveland without ever looking at them, and they just hold them. If they're occupied, they're collecting rent. If they're vacant, they're vacant. But they have no interest in responding to their tenants. They have no interest in making routine maintenance, and they have no interest in talking to anybody. They certainly have no interest in responding to violation notices or any kind of legal requirements that the city of Cleveland might have on them. As a matter of fact, the only reason we found this person was because a reporter, Nick Castell, took some time to actually hunt them down and many, many hours to actually find these people somewhere in California. If a requirement to register in the state of Ohio were a barrier for them to purchase these properties, they might have decided not to do it because they are simply purchasing lines on a spreadsheet. They have no actual interest in real property. They have no interest in the neighborhood, the community, or the vibrancy or well-being of the economy in Northeast Ohio. They're simply investing in a portfolio that they're going to hold for whatever time their math tells them they have to hold in order to sell for a profit. They have absolutely no interest in these properties whatsoever. And actually, in my neighborhood, they have about 7 or 8. I've gone around and I've looked at them. The ones that were occupied are now vacant, and we have increased vacancy in the neighborhood. If anything would have stopped them from being able to purchase these properties, and I would have fewer vacancies in my neighborhood right now. So I actually applaud this effort that you're taking. I also really want this to consider and talk about the DTE 100. Right now, we have a massive problem with absentee landlords, and we cannot track them down. And one of the reasons is that we don't have reliable information. When the people fill out the DTE 100 to transfer property, I would ask you to consider a verification for phone numbers and email that we can immediately, if they do this online, we can immediately verify whether or not the information they're giving us is correct, because we know that people misspell their emails on purpose. We know that they put the wrong phone numbers in on purpose, and we know that a lot of the information we have is not reliable. We are working in the city of Cleveland to introduce legislation that will actually hold some of the property managers more transparent as well. We want to try to get more information on them, including broker's license, as well as phone numbers, addresses, and emails for the property managers. The reason that we have so many out-of-state investors is that we have bad actors in our neighborhood, and these are typically brokers. These are people that don't care about the communities, but what they do is they find out-of-state investors, they handle the transaction, they collect their percentage on the sales price, they hold them, and they sell them to the next investor a little while later. Am I at 44?
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm watching. You got time.
Oh, then I'll stop trying to phrase. I'll still be brief. We find it very hard to enforce our rental registry in the city of Cleveland because we can't find the actual people that are on them if they even register. And we have a hard time using the DTE 100 because the information on it isn't reliable enough for us. So I would ask this body to consider a few other things. One, can we use instant verification for phone numbers and emails? Two, can we create a system that notifies municipalities when one of those forms has been filled out in the negative? In other words, when question 10 says, no, it will not be my primary occupancy. Is there a way to then notify that municipality that we have a potential new investment property that we could at least take action on our side? And that was, let's see, so I got to number 1, I got to number 2, I got to, the penalty for lying on this form, I'm not sure what it is. When people say that, yes, I'm going to live there, and they walk out of this building and decide, you know what, I've changed my mind, I'm not going to live there. I'm not sure what the penalty is for that, or how you establish if somebody even did lie on purpose or if they did change their mind. But it seems like it's a situation ripe for misinformation and for people just abusing. So I'd ask us what that is, but that's all. And the last thing, the email that your notification you're providing for homeowners, would that be publicly available information, or would that only be between the county and the homeowner to notify them?
Sorry, what was the question?
The third thing you said you were doing was you're adding email notification for property owners.
Sorry, we anticipated about 5 years ago, the appraisal, requested our appraisal department, we created a questionnaire, which is like the page 2 of the DTE form.
Yes.
It's a sales verification form, I believe is what we call it. On that form, we ask for email addresses.
And that document is public.
Yes.
Okay,
it is, yes.
great. Thanks.
Sure, and thank you.
I would also add, as far as, that's one of the changes we have is section 3B. We will require, if they do answer to the negative, that they are not going to make it their principal place of residence, that that we're asking that they submit a rental disclosure form or an exception form, basically stating that you're not going to live there. In certain cases, if someone's like a relative's living there, but they're not collecting rent, we have an exemption form. So that is something we were putting in this current standards.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm County Council President Pernell Jones. And first, I'd just like to commend you all on the work that you're doing. I did have a question. I had one question. Under our current policies and applicable law, can Cuyahoga County prevent the transfer of title upon the sale to a business entity that is not registered with the Ohio Secretary of State or not currently in good standing with the Ohio Secretary of State?
For the last 10 years, we've always check whether the property, if the grantee is an entity, we always confirm that it's been registered with a Secretary of State. We ask the title companies to include them as attachments to the DTE form. We've been doing that for a while. The foreign part sort of new, because a lot of the times the other state Secretary of State's websites aren't very good, or we can't find the information, and so then we will contact the title companies and ask them to email them to my clerks so that they can attach them to the DTE forms. But yeah, so we just want to, because we had a lot of incidents back back then where people were inventing companies. They weren't filing them; they were just Home Corp and putting it in there. And so now basically it's a wasted document because it didn't really do anything because that was never a registered entity.
Councilman Harsh asked many of the same questions that I have as well. But can you do that? Can you simply require someone to give an actual name, an address, phone number, social security number, whatever is required, so that you can find them when it's time to have them, board it up, cut the grass, and all those things? Do you have the ability to do that through policy, or is there something more needed?
Yeah, we've ever since the 2008 crash, we've increased standards in our policies over time in response to the changes in the real estate industry and real estate as a whole to tighten these things. So one of which was, like I said, we require, since 2016, we require settlement statements to corroborate, because people were coming in with saying they paid $10 to evade the conveyance tax. So we used to ask for purchase agreements, but they would go to Staples and get us purchase agreement and write down $10. So, so now settlement statements are a little harder to fake. So that's helped, the quality of our sales information, which helps our appraisal department. They have valid sales information.
So to your question, Council President, I will check with the law department to see if we do have any authority not to accept the transfer. That's what you're asking, correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there additional people, public comment? Feel free, come on up. Just state your name again, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Lou McMahon from Ohio Title, and we were just trying to get a little bit of clarification on some of the new conveyance rules, and then maybe a couple on the engineers. But the first one is, and I'm just going to go through these because you can get back to me if needed, but at what point does the county consider certified delinquency? That would be the first one. And then on your exempt form that you were talking about, if the bank buys the property back, what do you require for the other to be filled out? Because it's not a rental. Okay, so that would be section 3B.
Yeah, that's it. We have an exemption. So there's several categories on the rental exemption form, and I believe that's one of them. It's just basically stating that the property, if it's not going to be owner occupied, we just need to know if it's being rented. If it's not, what it's being used, what the use is. And in the case of a bank, obviously they're just
So they would fill out the property exemption form
Correct.
and then other explain that,
Yep.
and just put something like owned by a bank or.
yeah.
bank
And like I said, that form we can update, and I'll have Don, if you can make a note for me, we can update that form to add that.
Okay, that would be great.
Thanks.
Okay, and then, let's see. That would be section 3J. What is the statements that you are requiring? Is that still the articles or the copy of the trust? Like, exactly what are you talking about there? Is that just supporting documentation?
Well, we've had a lot of situations where people will put down prepared by XYZ Corp. And we were saying we need an actual individual. So like whoever prepared it, if it's like it needs John Smith, attorney at law, or, and since obviously if the property is owned by an entity, the grantor is an entity, then really it should be an attorney, because the only way you could be something pro se is if you're an individual.
So you're saying that should be an attorney?
It should, or yeah, you can't put XYZ Corp as the preparer. It has to be a person.
So you need a name?
We need a name, exactly.
Okay. Let's see. And then under the, okay, we've covered that foreign. Okay, we got that. Okay, about correcting a document text. So the new verbiage on that would be, make a note and initialed by the grantor as to why the document's being corrected. So what if it's the grantee's name that's being corrected? Or what if it's on part, like the title company puts the wrong legal description, so we're just refiling it for that. Why would we have to go hunt down the grantor? Because that's the way it says. It says the grantor has to initial the document.
Yeah, I mean, generally, obviously, the grantor is the only party that's signing a deed. So that's why we say the grantor has to approve any changes. I mean, this is more obviously usually geared towards, if they're changing the grantee's name or if they're changing, and it could even be their legal description. Like, because I mean, we've actually had instances where people, like relatives tried to like swap legal descriptions to say, like, oh, my mom meant to give me that one, and my brother I hate give this, and so that's why he said we want the grantor to initial that, yes, they're aware of this change, and it was a scrivener's error, and it was not intentional.
Okay, so we would have to track down the original document, track down the grantor to get their initials to refile it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to give me a better, I mean, I'll be happy to talk to you after the meeting, because I'm not sure with the examples you're.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, perfect. We can move on then. Okay, and then under section 8, approval signatures on the plat. Okay, so if we are a title company and we're just filing a plat as an accommodation, who's the submitting party?
8, which 8, what?
8B. Because it says the signing authorities vary per regulation body, and it says, oh no, wait a minute, submitting, maybe I'm wrong here. It says this, the submitting party has to verify the signatures, but if we're just doing it as an accommodation, we're just dropping it off.
Maybe it wasn't worded correctly, and we could fix that. I think what we were trying to say is, it is up to the person filing, so different city approvals, each city has different, some have who's gonna sign it. It is up to that surveyor, whoever's preparing that plat, to notify the city on what kind of signatures they want for their approval, for them to put on the drawing, is the way I interpreted that.
Okay, so it wouldn't necessarily be like the title company just submitting an accommodation. It would be back onto the surveyor to make
Yes,
sure
whoever's
everything is.
preparing the drawing has to find out from the municipalities who's at that municipality is required to approve that plat.
Okay, we were just trying to figure out like who's
Yeah.
responsible
So
for
we
signing.
get a lot where they did something in the city of Cleveland where they might have something, they do something in another city and they use the same signature block and it's a little bit different and they end up changing it. We would like the person preparing the drawing to notify the city, and most of them do check with the city if they're gonna change property to see if they are gonna approve it. Check with them and what they require, who at the city is gonna be approving that
Okay, and you'll
plat.
look over the verbiage again?
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you. And then I believe this might be my last one, but on that same section 8, under D, do we, I mean, because I know it's been back and forth over the years, but do we now submit and file a deed with a new legal description when you file a new plat? Because we used to, then we didn't, and then we did, and we didn't. So that was a little bit confusing because there was a lot of verbiage added in there.
So I'm not sure where you're seeing, I guess what we meant on this, you have a homeowner that owns 2 sublots in a subdivision. He wants to combine them. We do require a consolidation plat prepared by a surveyor. But because those are 2 sublots in a subdivision, or basically they've been surveyed already, he can prepare that plat based on record information,
Okay,
file that at the county. If it's a oddball-shaped land that's not in a subdivision, it's a meets and bounds description, we are requiring that he actually survey the property. Are you saying that this is saying something different? Does it sound something different?
Well, it was kind of hard to interpret, so
Okay,
that's why
I'm
we were
gonna
looking
check.
for interpretation here.
Was the intent.
Okay, so
It
that's
was
the
for the
intent.
surveyor to see that whether or not he has to do a field survey. It's a big difference in price if he can just combine two sublots. It'll save the homeowner a lot of money.
Right.
So I will review this as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And then I just want to talk about section 11, A, requirements for all legal descriptions. You added in the acreage to put on the legal description, if any exists. Can you,
So when you're writing a short form legal, so you have a plat that creates parcel A, parcel B, it could be, and it's happened before where they put parcel A when they meant parcel B. That changes the entire description, entire property gets transferred, it could be the same owner. So adding the acreage is just a double check. If parcel A is 5 acres and parcel B is 1 acre, if they don't match, it just raises a red flag. So we ask that you put that on.
okay, so coming out of that subdivision, like the A or
You would
B,
get that
but not necessarily coming out of the B and A going forward, and there's no acreage on that following plat?
Yeah, so if you have the plat and it's an older plat that doesn't have the acres, you can leave it off. If it's available, we ask that you include.
Okay, but it's not, it won't be rejected if it doesn't have
No.
it? Okay, and then I was just wondering if this notification got sent out to the surveyors as well?
Yeah, we have a list of email addresses that were sent to them too.
Okay, cool. And then I know there's 1 or 2 people here today that is not on your email list, and how would they do that?
They can submit it to realestate@cuyahogacounty.us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. And just so everyone knows, all these comments will be taken back under advisement, and any changes we'll announce at the next meeting. And we appreciate all your input. Anybody else wish to please come up? Thank you. Just state your name.
Linda Green, Chicago Title. I just wanted to add a further comment on this foreign corporation transfer issue. Title companies require that in order for us to insure title, that the corporation be in good standing. And you folks require a copy of the good standing certificate, whether they're registered in Delaware or wherever they're registered. And we also provide the good standing certificate, which would then indicate who the statutory agent is. I think that's sufficient. I don't think that there would need to be another requirement that they register in Ohio. We already know where they've been formed, and we know we can go to that particular Secretary of State and find the statutory agent and contact them in that manner. So again, I don't feel that we need this additional step to have them register in Ohio. Just make sure on the deed that you indicate where they've been formed, whether they're a Delaware corporation or, and that's a requirement that as far as I know, the county currently requires. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda.
We have plenty of time, so anyone next? I'm going to hate doing this, but does anyone have a follow-up question that they want to address? No, okay, we don't. Okay, sorry. But I do appreciate this, and I believe we have our next meeting scheduled in 2 weeks, approximately. And we will come, the 24th, we will come back, 24th or 23rd? I think it was changed, but we will come back and address some of your comments. We'll take a look at it. Some of them were great points, and we'll double check, and we'll make sure we mention any changes that were made, and then we'll hear your comments one more time. And in the meantime, if you do have any questions, feel free to email Brian.
It's on the public notice.
It's currently on the notice as Thursday, so that's, I'll have IT change it. Yeah, it currently says Thursday.
No, the one I have, the new one has Friday, February 24th. Yep,
I'll make sure the website is updated.
yes.
All right, well,
So it didn't go out? Okay.
okay, we'll
No,
make
Well,
sure.
I'll make sure it's updated.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, we are going to officially close this meeting. And I once again thank you all for coming, and your opinion, your comments are very valuable. Have a great day.